Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how to crochet part 3 of the Sideways Sampler Shawl. You can find the free written pattern at the link in the description, or go to your favorite search engine and simply type in Moogly Sideways Sampler Shawl, and it should pop right up. In this video, for part 3, we'll be covering rows 53 through 68. Parts 1 and 2 are already up on the channel. I will be continuing to use this USH 5mm crochet hook by Furls, and you can see here's the original featuring concept by Katia, 4-ply symmetric socks and more illusion. As always, I do recommend that you have some stitch markers on hand. Let's take a closer look at part 3. So here you can see on the shawl where I've marked out with stitch markers the section that we'll be doing today in part 3. We continue our increases. Let me turn it a little bit here. Right here for a few more rows, we've got this really fun stitch pattern right here. Then a few more of our double crochet rows. And then you can see here is where we stop our increases, and we'll move on to doing our decreases for the second half of our shawl. So we've got another fun stitch pattern here, and then a couple more rows to get us started on our decreases in these plain double crochet stitches. So we'll stop right about here today, and then we'll have just the end and the border left for part 4. So let's go ahead and get started with part 3. So here we are on part 3, ready to start row 53. And we start with our chainless starting double crochet in the first stitch, which I've already done right here. And of course, just like the other parts, you should use whatever chain 3 substitute you prefer, or the chain 3. After we've got that first stitch made, then we skip the next stitch right there. So I'll put my thumb on the stitch after that. And then we begin our repeat inside the brackets. So it's 2 double crochets in the next stitch, chain 2, 2 double crochets in the next stitch, and then skip 2 stitches. That's our repeat. So let's do it together. We've got our first stitch made. We're going to skip the next stitch. And in the stitch after that, we work 2 double crochets. So there's 1. And there's 2. Then we chain 2, 1, 2, and work 2 double crochets in the next stitch. So not back in that first stitch, but we go to the next stitch. So there's 1 and 2. There we go. And then we finish our repeat by skipping the next 2 stitches. So let's do that again. We've skipped the next 2 stitches, so we start our repeat with 2 double crochets in the next stitch. 1, 2. Then we chain 2, 1, 2, and work 2 double crochets in the next stitch. 1 and 2. Then to finish up our repeat, we skip the next 2 stitches. So continue that on across, and I'll meet you as we get closer to our center corner there. So as you can see, here I've come to our marked corner space. So we're going to finish up. We've got our last repeat here before the corner with our 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, skip the next 2 stitches. It lands us squarely in our marked corner space. So in that corner space, we're again going to work 2 double crochets. This time we're going to chain 1 and place markers. That becomes our new corner here. Move that right on up. And then 2 double crochets back in that same chain space again. 1 and 2. And then we come back down, of course, the other side. Coming back down, our repeat's going to be skip 2 stitches and then do 2 double crochets, chain 2, and 2 double crochets in the next. So let's go ahead and get ourselves started here, coming down that side. Chain 2, and then 2 double crochets. Make sure you go to that next stitch for sort of the second half of this. Sort of a twist on a V stitch, done a little differently, over 2 stitches instead of in 1. You can see right there. So there's our center, skip 2, and begin our repeat again. So then skip 2 and work our way back down, and I'll see you as we get ready to finish up row 53. So here we are at the end of row 53. We've made our last repeat here along the second side where we skip 2, 2 double crochets in the next stitch, chain 2, 2 double crochets in the stitch after that. Right here at the end, we'll have 2 stitches left, so we're going to skip the next stitch and finish up the whole row with a double crochet in the very last stitch. So it mirrors what we did at the beginning. So Again, I am making a smaller demo version, but to some extent, this is what your shawl should look like at the end of row 53. So now we can turn and begin row 54. Once again, I've started with my chainless starting double crochet or whatever double crochet substitute you prefer there in our first stitch. And here on row 54, it's a very easy repeat to remember. We're only going to be working into the chain 2 spaces in between those pairs of double crochets, and we're going to be doing the same thing in each of those spaces. So we're going to jump right on over to that space, and we're going to work 2 double crochets, followed by a chain 2, 1, 2, and 2 more double crochets, all right into that chain 2 space below. So let's get that last one in there. You can see, if I hold it up nice and centered there, you can see 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets, worked right into that chain 2 space. So then we can just jump right on over to that next chain 2 space and do the same thing. 1, 2 double crochets, followed by a chain 2 and 2 more double crochets. And we'll continue that all the way until we get to that corner marked space. So we've continued row 54 until we come to our marked corner space. And in this corner, we're going to work it a little bit differently. We have 3 double crochets, chain 1, place marker, 3 double crochets. So you can see I'm getting that started right now. There's my second one. Here's a third one. We're going to chain 1 and move that stitch marker on up again. Put it right around our chain 1. You can move it up after you make this next set of double crochets, however you prefer to do it. But we want to make sure to come back into that chain space and work 3 more double crochets. So we have a total of 6 double crochets worked into that corner space right there. So you can see 3, chain 1, 3. After that, we go back to our same stitch pattern to get down the second half of the shawl here. We jump right on over to that next chain 2 space and do our 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets again. So I'll see you when we get to the end of row 54. So here you can see we've worked our way down the second half of the shawl. So to finish up row 54, after we've placed our stitches in that last chain 2 space, we're of course going to put a double crochet right in that last stitch, just like so. And with that, we have finished row 54. And now we're ready for row 55, which you can see I've already started. We have our chainless starting double crochet or double crochet substitute for our first stitch, and then we do the same thing. We jump right into the next chain 2 space and do 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. It will be a little different when we get to that marked corner space, so I'll see you when we get there. So on row 55, I've come right here to our corner space, and you can see I've worked our same repeat into the chain 2 space all the way up to this point. So what we're going to do now is, once again, we're going to handle our corner a little differently. We're going to skip the next 4 stitches. So that'll be these 2 and the first 2 here. That puts us in the stitch right before our chain 1 space. So in that stitch right before our chain 1 space, we're going to go ahead and put 2 double crochets. So there's 1, and here's a second one, just like that. Then in our corner, in our marked space here, we're going to work 2 double crochets. 1, 2, chain 1, place marker, so we move our stitch marker on up. Then in that same chain 1 space, we're going to come down here and work 2 more double crochets. 1 and 2. And then we'll put 2 double crochets in the very next stitch. 1 and 2. And then we're going to skip those stitches and basically go back to our repeat. That gets us through the corner. Now we can come down the second half of our shawl and just jump into each of those chain 2 spaces and work our 2 double crochets, chain 2, 2 double crochets. Back to our standard repeat until we get to the end. So then we finish up row 55 by simply double crocheting in that very last stitch, just like we've done in the previous rows. Now we're ready for rows 56 through 61, and those are going to be our plain double crochet rows again. So we just double crochet in each stitch across. When we're working into row 55, We skip the chain twos. We just double crochet in each double crochet until we get to the corner where we've got our double crochet, chain one, and double crochet again, and then double crochet again down the other side. Again, when you're working row 56, you'll skip those chain two spaces, but other than that, we just have 6 more rows of our plain double crochet increases. And after that, we get to start our decreases. So here you can see I have finished rows 56 and 57. And I just wanted to point out real quick, row 56 that we work into just those double crochets as I mentioned. We skip the chain twos. After that, we're simply working in each stitch across. Now, for the sake of time, I'm going to go ahead and jump ahead to row 62. And in row 62, we finish doing all of our increases. From here on out, we're just going to be decreasing. So that means here, I've already put my first stitch in this row for row 62, my chainless starting double crochet, but from here on out, we're going to stop right here. So in this first row of decreases, we're going to stop in that corner marked space right there. After that, we won't be working in the second half of the shawl. It will become part of the side of the shawl. So let's go ahead and get started here on row 62. Once again, I've got my chainless starting double crochet or double crochet substitute in the first stitch. And for this row, we jump right on into our repeat inside the brackets. And that begins with skipping the next stitch. And then in the stitch after that, or rather in the next 3 stitches, we're going to double crochet. So once again, we've got our chainless starting double crochet in the first stitch. Then we begin our repeat. Skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next 3 stitches. So there's 1 and 2 and 3. Then we double crochet in the skipped stitch, enclosing the 3 double crochets just made. So let's take a look here at what we've got. We've got those 3 double crochets we just made, and we've got that stitch right there that we skipped. So we're going to double crochet in that stitch, and we're going to do it around enclosing all 3 of those stitches. So what that means is we're going to yarn over, insert our hook back in that stitch we skipped, all the way through our fabric, bring our yarn all the way to the back of our fabric, yarn over, and pull up our loop. And now I want you to take the time to pull that loop up and around. You can see how we've enclosed those 3 double crochets, but we don't want to keep that loop tight. We want to pull it up here so that it kind of matches our other loops here on the other side of that group of stitches. From there, we can finish our double crochet. We yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2, just like so. And that's our whole repeat, and we're going to keep doing that until we get just about to the end here. So let's do it a couple more times together. We begin by skipping the next stitch. So you can see, look and see where you worked. You can see that last double crochet there of that set is right there. So we're going to skip the next one, go into the next stitch with a double crochet. There's 1, then the next stitch with a double crochet for 2, and then a third. And then it's time to do our enclosing stitch. We yarn over, go right into that stitch before those 3 stitches we just made, the one that was skipped. Bring our yarn all the way to the back of our fabric here, yarn over and pull up a loop, and then pull that loop up so it can kind of meet these other loops here on the other side of your work, and then finish our double crochet. Yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2, just like so. Let's do it again. Skip the next stitch, double crochet the next 3, 1, 2, and 3. I need to pull up a little bit more yarn here. There we go. Then, after we've done those 3 double crochets, we're going to double crochet in that skipped stitch. So we yarn over, bring our hook all the way back here, all the way to the back of our fabric, yarn over, pull up our loop nice and tall, back to the other side of those 3 double crochets so we can finish our double crochet. Yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, and pull through 2. So we keep doing that until we get just about to that marked space, and I'll see you there. So here you can see the neat stitch pattern that we're making in row 62. And I've come right up here to the corner. As we work our pattern across, we're going to have 2 stitches left right before our marked corner space. So what we want to do is skip the next stitch, and then we're going to work a double crochet 2 together in the next stitch and the corners. Let's do that together now. We skip the next stitch, we go into that last stitch before our corner. We've got our yarn over on there first. Go into that stitch, yarn over and pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through 2. We stop with 2 loops left on the hook, yarn over again. Now we're going to go into that marked corner space, yarn over and pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and then finish it by yarning over and pulling through 3. We don't need to mark that corner anymore, although I do like to leave that stitch marker there just to help me out a little bit as I make my border as a visual cue of when I'm moving from the sides of rows to working into the tops of rows. So for now, you can just leave that lay because we're going to be working back and forth in simple rows without increases. In fact, we're going to start our decreases. So now we're ready to begin row 63. You can see immediately we've dropped a lot of stitches, and from here on out, it's going to be going pretty quickly. To begin row 63, we're going to start with a chainless starting double crochet / double crochet 2 together. So this is a way that we can make our decreases on this side while using our special stitches to avoid the chain 3. If you do not like the stitch I'm about to show you, what I recommend you do instead is chain 2, skip the first stitch and work a double crochet in the stitch after that, and mark that double crochet as your first stitch of the row. However, here's how I like to do it. I'm going to start by pulling up my loop like I normally do for a chainless starting double crochet, and as always, secure the top with my finger. Then I yarn over with the loop itself and go right on into that first stitch. Pull up my loop, yarn over, and pull through 2 loops. I maintain my grip on the top of that loop, yarn over again, go into the next stitch, yarn over, pull up my loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and now I will yarn over and pull through all 3, releasing that loop. Now, that time I dropped it. So let me grab it. There we go. And I saved it. Don't worry, you'll see me do that several more times here as we make our decreases. So let me go ahead and mark the top of that stitch. Again, if you don't like doing that, you can instead chain 2, double crochet in the next stitch, and just mark the top of that double crochet. That is a great way to sort of create those decreases as well. After we've got that done, then we're ready to continue across with our stitch pattern. So we're going to start by double crocheting in the next 3 stitches. There's 1, 2, and 3. And then we begin our repeat for this row. We skip the next stitch and double crochet in the next 3 stitches after that. So we skip this one, double crochet in the next 3. 1, straighten out my yarn here, 2, and 3. And then we're going to double crochet in that skipped stitch enclosing the 3 we just made. So just like what we were doing in the previous row. Once again, we want to make sure to pull that loop all the way up to the side there where the rest of the stitch is so we can work off that double crochet. Then we skip the next stitch and do it again. The same repeat we were doing in the previous row. So I will see you as we get to the end of row 63. So here you can see I have finished row 63. We've got our little sets of wrapped stitches here, and as we get to the end of this row, we have our last repeat and then simply work a double crochet into that very last stitch. So now we're all ready to begin row 64. All right, so let's take a quick look at what we're doing here as we begin row 64. I've got my chainless starting double crochet made, my double crochet substitute, and I want to point out that on this side of each of these rows now, we'll be working chainless starting double crochets or whatever stitch is needed for a special stitch pattern, and it will be staying nice and even. All of our decreases will be happening on this side, the same side that had our corner chain 2 space right there, which now that I realize I did end up moving the stitch marker out of up to the next row. So I'm going to grab another one real quick here and stick it right in there for my own reference later. But yes, this is going to be the side where we're decreasing now, and this side will be working even. So if you ever get turned around, that's a great little rule to help you find your place. So now we can pick up our work and begin row 64 together. As I said, it starts with a double crochet substitute, whichever one you prefer there in the first stitch, and then we jump right into that same repeat all the way across until we get to the end. So it's the same thing we were doing in the previous row. We skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next 3 stitches after that, and work a stitch to enclose the 3 we just made. So once again, I will see you as we get down to the end of the row. So you can see here in row 64, we've got one of those repeats worked into each of those repeats below, and now we have come to the end of the row, and we've got 4 stitches left. So the way we handle the end of this row is we double crochet in the next 2 stitches. So there's 1 and 2, and then we are going to double crochet 2 together in those last 2 stitches. Remember, this is our decreasing side, so our decreases are always going to be on this end of the row. So now we go into the next stitch, pull up our loop, yarn over, pull through 2, same thing, yarn over, go into the final stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through all 3 to finish our row 64. So as we begin row 65, we can see we're on our decreasing side. So we're going to do that chainless starting double crochet 2 together again. Or again, you can do whatever you prefer to do for your decrease side. I'm going to start by pulling up the loop to the height of a double crochet and securing the top. Yarn over with the loop itself and go right into that first stitch. Yarn over and pull up a loop. Yarn over, pull through that loop and behind the tall yarn over. Do not let go of that loop on top of your hook. Yarn over again, go into the next stitch, yarn over and pull up our loop, yarn over, pull through 2. Finally, release the top of that loop and yarn over and pull through 3. Then I always like to get my stitch marker right on in to that stitch. There we go. After we've got that in place, then we double crochet in the next stitch. And now we're all lined up for that same repeat again. Skip the next stitch, double crochet in the next 3, and work back into that skipped stitch to enclose it. The same thing we've been doing in the previous rows. So you can see when we get to the end, we'll just finish it off with a double crochet in that very last stitch. So here you can see I finished row 65 again with that double crochet in our last stitch, and I took the liberty of going ahead and starting row 66. Once again, we're starting just like we did 2 rows before with our double crochet substitute in our first stitch, and then we jump right into those repeats with our enclosed stitches. So it won't be different again until we get down to that end of the row, so I'll meet you there. So here I am, almost at the end of row 66. You can see I've worked one of those repeats into each of the repeats below, and that leaves us with just 2 stitches remaining in row 66, and it's on our decrease side, so we're going to finish up with a double crochet 2 together. So once again, we start 1 double crochet in the first stitch, start a double crochet in the last stitch, and finish it up by yarning over and pulling through those last 3 stitches. Now, the next 2 rows, and some rows after that, but that's part 4, the next 2 rows are the last 2 rows in part 3. So for these 2 rows, we're going to go back to our plain double crochet rows, but this time, of course, they're going to be a little different because we don't have that increase in the middle, and we need to make sure to keep decreasing along this edge. So row 67 is the first of our plain decreasing at the beginning double crochet rows, I guess you could call it. So once again, we're going to start with that chainless starting double crochet 2 together, or whatever you prefer for your beginning decrease. So I'm just going to pull up my loop here and start my first double crochet. Stop with 2 loops left on the hook, yarn over, go to the next stitch, pull up my loop, yarn over, pull through 2, release the top of that loop to yarn over and pull through all 3. Put my stitch marker here in our new first stitch of the row. And then after that, it's simply double crochet in each stitch across. So here you can see row 67 where we began with our decrease and worked evenly across, double crocheting in each stitch. And here I came back for row 68. So let's turn so we're going the right direction here. There we go. So here is row 68, which of course started with our double crochet substitute, whichever one you prefer, double crochet in each stitch across. And we keep doing that until we end up with just 2 stitches left in that row. So we want to finish up row 68 with a double crochet 2 together. So of course we start a double crochet in 1, stop with 2 loops on our hook, start a double crochet in the last stitch. Once we've got 3 loops left on our hook, we yarn over and pull through all 3. And row 68 is going to be the final row that we make in part 3. And that's how to crochet part 3 of the Sideways Sampler Shawl. Be sure to come back for part 4, where we'll cover rows 69 through to the end and the border. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.